Welcome to Highly Sensitive Healing. I'm Lauren LaSalle, a former therapist, a highly sensitive person, and a mentor for HSPs. For too long, I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt everything deeply, sounds, emotions, other people's moods, and I learned pretty early on just to push through, to quiet my intuition, and to try to keep up with what everyone else was doing and what society expected of me. But the truth is, my sensitivity was never the problem. I just didn't have the language, support, or tools to understand it. This podcast was created for highly sensitive people who are tired of trying to toughen up or fix themselves and are ready to heal in a way that honors how they're wired. Here, we talk about nervous system regulation, unhelpful thought patterns, emotional overwhelm, and self-trust through a gentle, compassionate lens. You don't need to become someone new to feel better. You don't need to push harder or try more. You get to learn how to care for yourself in ways that actually work for you. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, misunderstood, or like you were carrying too much, this space is for you. My hope is that each episode helps you feel a little less alone and a little more at home in yourself. So, wherever you're listening from, welcome. Take a breath, settle in, and let's begin. Hey everybody. Today I want to talk about a topic that comes up once in a while, whether it's with my mentorship clients or in our HSP community. And it's a great topic because this is something that no matter where you are on your healing journey, this can come up, and especially for HSPs, because we process things so deeply, sometimes we can sort of overthink our way into a negative space. So I wanted to talk about this a little bit, and I really hope this will be helpful for people. So today I want to talk about looking back on past versions of yourself. I think sometimes when we look at past versions of ourselves, it can be really easy to blame them or to not like them or to want to distance ourselves from them, almost as if we're trying to separate them from who we are now. But that's not really possible to do because the past versions of ourselves are still us. And so rather than trying to separate yourself from them and saying like, that was me then, this is me now, something that can be really helpful but also difficult to do at the same time is to acknowledge the past versions of yourself. And if you don't particularly like that version of yourself, this might be uncomfortable and it might be difficult. But why we want to accept all versions of ourselves is because if we are striving for self-compassion and self-acceptance, that means that we need to be compassionate toward all versions of us. It doesn't necessarily mean that we need to be accepting of what their behavior may be if they behaved in a way that we no longer agree with. I'm giving you permission right now to have compassion for all versions of yourself. The version of you, the past version of you that maybe you don't like or don't fully accept, was doing the only thing that they knew how to do at the time, whether that was people pleasing, shrinking themselves, to not take up space, over giving, not speaking up for themselves. They weren't doing anything wrong. Those are not weaknesses. What you were doing at that time was just trying to survive. And those survival strategies made sense in that environment and in that version of you. You were being resourceful with what you had and what you knew. And so I think it's so important to have compassion for where you were at that time, because you know your story the best out of everyone. And at the same time, being that close to your own story can make it more difficult to find compassion for past versions of yourself. But the idea of hating your past self can keep you stuck now. And being critical of that version of yourself can sometimes feel like it's productive in a way, like we're actually doing something, because we are maybe not condoning the behavior or whatever it is that you don't like about your past self. And that makes us feel like, okay, so I'm distancing myself from her because I'm being critical of her because I do not agree with what she did or just who she was. But when you build that self-criticism, it just builds up inside of you and creates some sort of like internal war that makes it more difficult to heal, not easier. You can't build something new when you have a foundation of shame. But with compassion, that's where you can really start to build. And when I was younger, when I was in my late teens, early 20s, that's the version of myself that I have so much compassion for, but also the version of myself that I dislike the most. And that's because she was suffering. She had depression. She had anxiety. She had a really, really hard time. So I can have compassion for that. I feel for her because I know how she felt. I know what she was going through. I don't want anybody else to have to feel that way. And at the same time, she was still learning who she was. She was people pleasing. She was not standing up for herself. And I don't like that. I don't like the things that she was doing. But she was doing what she knew. She was doing what she had to survive. It's not her fault that she didn't know better. The version of me now, I know better because I grew, but I needed time and space to grow to this version of myself. And I couldn't have done it without her. I could not be here now without that past version of me. Is there a version of yourself that is the hardest to have compassion for? And why is it hard to have compassion for them? What did that version of you need that they weren't getting? When I look back at that version of myself, late teens to early 20s, man, my needs were not met. And I also did not know how to effectively articulate my needs. And so, of course, they weren't getting met. And I'm so grateful now that I'm in a place where I know my needs and I know how to communicate that to other people. But she didn't. And I just wish I could give her a hug. I really do. Because she was really struggling. She was having such a hard time. And she does not need me to be hating on her at this point. She needs that love, that compassion that she did not feel like she was getting from anyone else at that time. And if this is something that you are working on, sort of integrating those past versions of yourself, understanding them, having compassion for them, something that I always like having clients do is to write a letter to a past version of yourself. And the point of this letter is to let them know that you understand now. You understand why they did what they did, why they were the way that they were. You understand that they were doing the best that they could at the time. And you want to let them know that you are not abandoning them, even as you grow past them, even as you are now a different version of that person. And you want to let them know that they also deserve to be brought along with you now as you grow. You don't want to leave them behind. That version of yourself does not want to be left behind. That's probably the last thing they want if they were struggling. Bring them with you. Write a letter to them. Let them know that you are here for them. You understand that they're doing the best they could. You understand where they are coming from, and you are here for them. And sometimes it's hard to leave behind who you used to be. Sometimes it's easy. All versions of us are us, and we couldn't be here today without them. So I think this is a short episode. I'm honestly not sure how long I've been talking for, but I thought this was a really important topic to talk about when it comes to healing. I hope this made a lot of sense for you and helps you along your healing journey. I always love when people send me in suggestions because I tend to talk about things that come up with clients in the community, things that come up in my own life, which I know all of those can be helpful for people. But if there's anything specific that you would ever like me to talk about, please send me an email or message me on Instagram. All of that information is always in the episode description. I would love to support you as best I can. And so I love your feedback and your input and your suggestions. And with that, I will say goodbye for now, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much for listening to Highly Sensitive Healing. You can help support the podcast by taking a minute to rate and review it, share your favorite episode with a friend, or become a subscriber on Patreon. Visit laurenlasalle.com for information about my mentorship programs, join my email list to stay up to date with how I can support you, as well as exclusive email list perks, and connect with me on Instagram at I am Lauren LaSalle. Happy healing.